And I was looking around. I was like, there's art, there's music, there's murals. Creatives are embraced. It's a gay-friendly town. It's got business. It's got water. It's got the river. It's got cycling. It's got athletic people. It's got food. It's got barbecue. It's got passion. It's got authenticity. It's got character. I was like, how have I not heard more about Tulsa before? You can have a city that's got great industry and great career options and all that, but if you don't have the arts, if you don't have some sort of creative soul to your city, it's not going to really catch fire and grow.
Okay, so we all have that one cool friend, and Mark, I don't know if you know this, but you're actually my coolest friend ever.
I surely am not your only one cool friend.
No, I have cool friends, but you take cool to like a completely different level. So we're talking about house concerts, and you're a musician and do improv, and a big New York City marketing guy in Tulsa now. So the cool factor just went way up.
Guilty as charged.
Yes.
Somewhat. I don't know how cool that makes me. It might just mean I'm really restless. I think that's really the heart of it.
Well, let's unpack a couple of things and start with how you felt the first time you even thought about Oklahoma.
Yes.
Your reaction.
Right. So I'll give a little context. So I grew up in New England. I grew up in Maine and Vermont, small towns of 20,000, 30,000 people. Never thought I'd leave New England, and I've now lived in 26 cities, 26 places, including Sydney, Australia, New York City, Boston, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Atlanta, LA, New York City twice. So I've lived in a lot of places, but my first 25 years were really in New England and small towns, and I think going to Australia for my junior year abroad awakened me to the idea of like, oh, not just other places, but, oh, I think I'm a city guy. And so I didn't know that about myself. And so I bounced around. I work in advertising as a creative director and a writer. I'm also a musician. My bank account will tell you I'm an advertising creative director. I do a lot of writing in a lot of different ways, but I was in New York and having a very good run of it. And then right before the pandemic settled in early 2020, I was like, I think it's time for me to take a little journey. I don't know if I'm leaving New York forever or coming back, but I'm going to take a break. And then once the pandemic happened, I was like, well, I'm not staying in this town while it's closed down for a year or two. And so I started looking around at options and where am I going to go? Shouldn't I be in the wilderness? And then I found out about this program called Tulsa Remote through an article in the New York Times. And my first reaction was, well, that's, Tulsa Remote, for those who don't know, is a city enrichment program by the George B. Kaiser Foundation that brings remote digital talent in general from other cities, other places to Tulsa. If you can do your job from anywhere, come do it from Tulsa. There's a move package involved, which helps. When I first heard about it, I was like, well, that's cool. I mean, I don't think I'd move to Tulsa, but good for Tulsa. And then I was like, the curiosity crept in, and I was like, well, what is Tulsa like? I don't think I've even driven through. And I've basically lived on both coasts, 20 different ways. And so finally I started doing a lot of Googling, went to the Tulsa Remote website, and then talked to my musician friends. I was like, what do you know about Tulsa? And they were all like, do not sleep on Tulsa, man. That's one of our favorite cities in the country. When we go there, we always try to stay 2 or 3 days. It's unbelievable. We don't know why more people don't know about it. So I was like, all right, I'm intrigued. And then I eventually applied to Tulsa Remote and got in and moved here in September 2020. But to your point, my first reaction was, middle of the country? Is that me? I've never done it. But I've lived in small towns. I've lived in the biggest towns. Maybe this is the right time to try something in between. And I'm like up for change. I'm up for trying something new. And ever since I got here, it's just gone amazingly. So.
Well, I think that in one of our conversations before, you said that, when you go to cities, you pick the cities and they're usually booming, and you feel like you got Tulsa like right before the boom.
Yeah. So I was on a vacation with a friend of mine for his 40th birthday party right before the pandemic in early 2020 in Tulum. I don't know if you've been to Tulum, but it's this unbelievable, on the ocean in Mexico. And and I asked the guy who owned the house we were renting, I was like, when did you get this? When he's like, man, I was in the 60s and 70s, I was going to Key West and all these places, and I was too late. And I found out about Tulum in 1981, and or whatever the year was. And he came here and was like, oh, I'm going to get here right before this blows up. And he bought a house for like 150 grand. That's worth $6 million now, something insane. And that's how I felt when I got to Tulsa. I got here and I was just on my interview weekend for Tulsa Remote, back when it was smaller numbers. I was in year 2. First year was 2019. I was part of 2020. They used to fly you in for, if you've never been to Tulsa, we're going to fly you in and make sure you like it, which I think is really smart. It's sort of a, let's date before we get married kind of policy. Come for a 4 or 5 day trip and we'll put you up, we'll wine and dine you, we'll show you around. Just make sure you know what you're getting into. So you don't move here and then decide you hate it, it wasn't what you expected, and then you leave. So, and I came for that 4 or 5 days, and I was looking around, I was like, there's art, there's music, there's murals, creatives are embraced. It's a gay-friendly town. It's got business. It's got water. It's got the river. It's got cycling. It's got athletic people. It's got food. It's got barbecue. It's got passion. It's got authenticity. It's got character. I was like, how have I not heard more about Tulsa before? So I was like, I actually spent the summer in Park City, Utah. When I left New York, I didn't get into Tulsa Remote right away. I hadn't heard about it. So I spent the summer in Park City, where I ski a lot and hung out with some friends and did some mountain biking. But it was a pretty quiet town. It was kind of locked down. People weren't being that social. And I got to Tulsa. I was like, no, this is what I'm doing. This has got the energy and the heart and the character. And I went to like the Mercury Lounge and I saw live music. And I was like, this just has authenticity for days. I was like, I'm moving to Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Now, that's such a neat story, and I love it. I really love your story, especially since you've lived in so many places, coast to coast in Australia, and you've been to all the places. So I love that. From 2020 till now, do you feel like there's been a lot of change, or do you feel like it's still the same? How?
I think it's growing. I don't know that it's been a seismic change, but I will say there's an ongoing evolution that I like and I'm excited about. And there's new building. I mean, I think for a while the world, it's hard to say how long the pandemic was, but sort of 2.5 years for some things that were closed down. And I'm still a remote worker. I still work remotely for New York City ad agencies for the most part. So we're still kind of getting back to that pre-pandemic level of everything is in person, everything's in the building, everyone's going out to eat all the time. And so for a little while, there wasn't much building development going on, but there were people like me moving from all over, people from Dallas, Houston, Austin, even Denver. A lot of people were moving to town. San Francisco had a lot of Tulsa Remoters from the Bay Area. And so houses were selling, and then there was development. But I feel like every month there's a cool new restaurant, there's another music venue, or there's another artist. U2 is coming to Tulsa within the week. They're being honored for the Woody Guthrie Award this year, and they'll be at Kane's Ballroom, 2 of the 4 members of U2. So every month I feel like there's just another amazing signpost that cool things are happening in Tulsa. We've got filmmaking happening here. Martin Scorsese shot Killers of the Flower Moon. Ethan Hawke was here last year shooting this amazing TV show, The Lowdown. Everybody should be watching it. And they're going to find out soon if it gets renewed for season 2. I'm optimistic. There's 6 or 7 movies shooting in Tulsa this summer. Stallone shot Tulsa King here. And I just feel like we're getting so many encouraging signposts that the momentum is swinging to Tulsa. Things are growing, things are moving, things are evolving. There's new buildings going on downtown. I lived at the Mayo Hotel my first year, and there's this really cool empty building up the street called the Sinclair. And I was like, somebody's got to take this. What is this? If this building were in Tribeca, New York City, this would be filled with $10 million apartments. This has got great bones. And finally, that building got developed last year. It's called the Exchange Apartments at Sinclair. So I feel like I'm on Instagram, and I'm always curious. I'm looking around, and every week I feel like it's still happening. It's growing. It's getting better. It's moving in the right direction. A friend of mine in my neighborhood, when I first was looking around my neighborhood, and we'll talk about where I live now, I was like, so how long you been here? And how do you like Tulsa? He's like, I've been here 30 years, but Tulsa has changed more in the last 5 years than in the previous 25. And he said that 5 years ago. Yeah. So I think that sort of progression is still happening. And I'm very excited about it.
Well, I find so much stuff, the cool things to do from not the locals, but from people that really come from Tulsa Remote, people like you, that are like, no, you've got to check out this place or you've got to check out this place.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, downtown Tulsa was dead.
Right.
And it was, it was kind of scary. You didn't want to be
heard,
there.
I've heard. People are like, you live there? I'm like,
yeah.
it's
So
nice.
let's talk about your neighborhood that you live in and how you discovered it. And I think you told me it kind of reminds you of Holiday Hills. Is that correct or not?
It reminded me of a couple things. A little bit, of the Hollywood Hills and a little bit of Maine, where I grew up, the kind of windy, twisting, neighborhoody roads with trees everywhere. I'd moved to Tulsa, and I'd been living in cities for 20 years. I've had one-bedroom apartments for 20 years. And my last one-bedroom apartment in New York cost $4,000 a month. And it was 480 square feet, and people thought I had a pretty good deal.
Wow.
So, and it was in a great neighborhood. It was in the West Village, and I had a great life. And in New York City, you're never at your apartment. You live in the city. You sleep at your apartment. You shower there. You change clothes there. You live in the city. I had never owned a house and all that. But I in the back of my head, I've always been like, one day I'm gonna own a house. And I've been. For those of you who are architecture fans or modern architecture, I've been subscribing to Dwell magazine for 22 years.
Okay.
And it's sort of like an architectural digest with a little more of a modern twist, a little more into minimalism, a little less classically focused than architectural digest. And I've been seeing these homes in great parts of the country, usually California or Austin, wherever there's a modern aesthetic. And I was like, one day I will own or build a house like this. And then I got to Tulsa and I was like, all right, I'm here for a year. Maybe I'll stay a little longer, but I'll ride out the pandemic while I'm here, and I'll have an adventure, and maybe I'll stay. And very quickly, I was like, I think I'm staying. This is going great. The energies here is fantastic. I'm playing live music once a week. My career is still going well. Everyone is so warm and friendly. People are funny. They're open-minded. It's conversational. It's social. And so at some point, I was like, I'm gonna buy a house. And then I was like, I'm gonna build a house. I'm going to build a modern prefab, some kind of modern house on my own. All this reading of Dwell magazine is finally going to pay off, and I'm going to build something here in Tulsa. And so I was living at the Mayo Hotel my first year. And I almost bought a house my interview weekend. It was like a $220,000 house in the neighborhood. It's called the Heights now, north of Tulsa. And I was like, how is this all this is like in Portland, Oregon, this would be an $800,000 house. This is a brand new, newly renovated. It's an older house, was renovated, craftsman style. And I was like, should I just buy this tomorrow? And I was like, all right, slow down, live in an apartment building for a year. Like, there's a lot of change. The pandemic's a big change. Leaving New York for Tulsa is a big change. Working remotely, like working from home all day is a big change. So don't also leave apartment living for a house. You'll probably explode. So I lived at the Mayo Hotel for my first year. For those who don't know, it's half hotel, half residences. And they hired me as their weekly musician to play in their penthouse bar, because I played the piano every night in their lobby. And they're like, hey, we're reopening our penthouse bar. We need musicians. Do you want to play? I was like, sign me up. So I just went from the elevator to the 13th floor to the 18th floor.
I didn't know that story.
It was great. So everything went my way. I felt like everything, this town is on my side. And it wants me to stay, and I want to stay, and let's keep it going. So I'm going to buy a house. And I started looking around, and I had a great realtor named Libby Beaubien. And she had already shown me probably 20 homes around town. I thought I wanted to live in Lortondale, buy a mid-century modern home. I always loved the designs. It was a little sleepy at the time. It's much younger now. I remember thinking, it's kind of an older crowd, but maybe I'll be part of the next generation. And I went back, and sure enough, all the homes have been flipped, and it's all 35-year-olds now. But so I was like, you know what? Show me some empty lots around town with some cool features. So she sent me to a neighborhood I hadn't heard of called Reservoir Hill, which is in North Tulsa. It's about a mile and a half north of downtown. And it's up a hill as you go through the Heights and up Denver. You wouldn't know it's there. A lot of Tulsans who've lived here 40 years have never been there, never heard of it. My Uber drivers all the time like, where are we going? I'm like, we're going to Reservoir Hill, baby. You're going to like it. And they get up there and they're like, what is this? We've got views. We're up on a hill. It's cool architecture. And to me, it felt like a little bit of like the Hollywood Hills, but kind of hidden away. If you know LA really well, there's a part of sort of the North Hollywood area called Laurel Canyon. It's where like all these iconic bands like Tom Petty and Fleetwood Mac recorded. It has this artistic vibe. It's kind of hidden away in the woods, and the houses are a little concealed by trees, but they're modern. It's chill, and you just get this artistic vibe. And I was like, Reservoir Hill is the Laurel Canyon of Tulsa, and I'm going to live here. And so she sent me to an empty lot, which was 4 lots combined as one. And I was like, I don't need 4 lots. And it was $250,000. I was like, I don't need to spend that much money. And I didn't end up buying. Also, it was 2021, so the construction costs were out of control. And I had a couple of architect friends who were like, you do not want to build right now. You're going to spend $1 million building a $500,000 house, and you should just wait. And luckily, a friend of mine, I was like, well, I love this hill. How hard is it to buy houses up here? And he said, oh, it's impossible. I was like, because? He's like, they don't go to market. They just get sold to friends. And I was like, okay, I don't have many friends up here yet. How am I going to get in on this? He goes, well, you know me. And his name is Casey Stowe. And he's like, stay in touch. And, I know everyone on the hill, and if somebody's trying to sell, maybe I can sneak you in there. And sure enough, 3 months later, his neighbor, a local architect named Dwayne, and his wife Robin were selling their house to build another one 2 doors down. And Casey's like, I got your buyer. You got to meet this guy. And I met with him, and I apparently passed the interview test. I said, this kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you've been there, but this reminds me of Laurel Canyon of Tulsa. And I remember Dwayne's wife Robin goes, he gets it. I'm good with him. and she walked off. When I moved into their house a few months later, it's not quite as modern as I would have built in my head. But I'm glad I didn't get what I wanted, because it's actually this really cool split level home with a lot of different rooms. I wanted this big open floor plan and no walls, and it's all modern and flowing. And instead I got something that's flowing, but it's interconnected. And you've been there.
Yeah.
And it's up on the trees, it's on a hill. So half the house, 1 floor is sort of here, and the lower floor is below, but it's all above grade, and it's nestled in the trees. And my deck is 30 feet above the ground, and there's trees. You can reach out and touch the leaves. And I've nicknamed it the Tulsa Treehouse, and I've now thrown over 100 parties, or house concerts, or brunches, or dinner parties, or whatever.
And that's what's so cool, and that is not a Tulsa thing.
Yeah.
So
it's a New York thing.
Yes,
we throw a lot of parties.
That's not something that we really do here. So you having the brunches, having the house concerts, bringing that alive to Tulsa, and that view from your patio, that is insane.
A good view.
Yeah, that is gorgeous.
No, I'm the oldest of 3 boys, and I've moved around a lot. So, and my dad wasn't that talkative, and I didn't have an older brother to talk to. So I think at a young age, I got used to no one's gonna introduce me to anyone. I gotta go out there and introduce myself to people and make friends. And I think at a very young age, I got used to we moved to a new neighborhood. Hey, I'm Mark. I don't know anyone here. What's your name? And I've now done that 24 other times, or whatever the number is now. But so my career in advertising kept me moving around so much that I was always chasing. The next best job usually wasn't in the town I was living in. It was in Boston this time, or Atlanta, or Portland, or New York, or now it's in LA. And most of the times I moved there and I didn't know anyone. And a lot of people are like, especially when I moved here, they're like, I didn't realize you knew a bunch of people in Tulsa. I was like, oh, I didn't know anyone here. And I view it as, strangers are just friends we haven't met yet. And, it's just kind of like, we just got to talk a little bit. I'll win them over, or we'll get along just fine. And so I'm pretty social, and I work at home alone all day. And so, now that I'm a remote worker, I'm just sitting there, it's me and my laptop in a 2,500 square foot house, and I get lonely. And so I'm throwing another big brunch bash, this Sunday. Hey, everyone, brunch is on Sunday from 10 to 3. And so
that's how it started, is you were just like, I am by myself. I want to meet people.
I've done versions of this in almost every city. But I'll say, when I lived in Seattle for almost 2 years, I probably threw 4 or 5 parties, one every 4 months. New York, I threw them a little more often. And then, I kind of, when I got here to Tulsa, so many of us were when you move in through Tulsa Remote, you're kind of connected with the other Tulsa Remoters. But you're also encouraged, don't just hang out with Tulsa Remoters. That's not the idea here. Become a part of Tulsa. And I will say Tulsa Remote really reinforces that value. And I think most of us who are here for a while, we've tried to follow that. And that's how you really, get the richest life possible in Tulsa. You've got to meet the locals. Don't just hang out with other people from the other coastal elite cities that maybe you moved from, and go to the music venues, become friends with the musicians, become friends with the artists, become friends with all the restaurant owners, and like become a Tulsan. And but since so many of us were new and didn't know anybody, I started throwing parties right away. I'm like, well, I know you 20 guys, but everybody has to bring a non-Tulsa Remote person to the party. That was one of my rules for one of my parties. And so that started happening. And then once I got the house, I'm like, I'm just one dude living here alone with 2,500 square feet, and like, it's a party house. So I started throwing a few cocktail parties, dinner parties, a holiday party. I'm also a musician. I've been a performing musician for about 25 years as a singer-songwriter, mostly on guitar, but a little bit on piano, acoustic rock kind of world. And I performed, a couple times a month in LA and New York all the years there. I've got 6 albums out. And I still perform music a lot, but my favorite venue, my favorite sort of way to perform live is in something called house concerts, which if you've ever been to like a coffee house concert that's chill and like a listening room vibe, like not in a bar where everyone's shooting pool and doing shots and it's noisy and they're talking. It's a listening room environment, like there's this whole religion of house concerts where touring artists will cross the country in between playing at bigger venues. They'll need to fill a date here and there, and a fan will put up a house concert at their place. Come to my house, I'll bring 30, 40, 50 people out. You'll play in our living room, we'll clear the furniture out, we'll put seats up, I've got a piano, you bring your acoustic guitar, and it's this really intimate kind of like a chill, quiet cocktail hour, but you're listening to like a nationally touring musician, and you're 10 feet from them. Sometimes there's not even amplification, and you're having this authentic connection with the music. It's hard, you can't get in a bar. So
it was really cool. I've been to one, and it was amazing.
Got another tomorrow night.
Yeah,
Everybody.
It was super. Now, how do you get on the list to get invited to the house concert?
We either have to have met or a friend invites, but it's I'm not exclusionary about it, because I'm always kind of like, more the merrier, and like, if I need to, get 50 people out, all making a donation to the artist, I have to message 250 to get 50 people to come out.
That's kind of the rule.
That's usually about what the number is. So yeah, if you only know 50 people, you're not getting all 50 to come out to your house concert. So we're at least at 40 people for tomorrow. I have a house concert tomorrow night for a nationally touring singer-songwriter named Ellis Paul, who I've been following for 25 years, and I've seen him at house concerts, and I was like, one day I'm going to get this guy at whatever house I eventually own, and finally it's happening tomorrow night. So it's kind of a dream come true. I loved playing house concerts. I did a house concert tour 10, 12 years ago myself. I was doing live shows at bigger venues, but I really love the house concerts most. And now I get to host them. And they're a fair bit of work, but they're just so beautiful. Like it's if you haven't done one, go to one. There's 5 or 6 venues in Tulsa that are hosting them. Most towns in America have them. They're a little harder to find. You got to do some Googling and social media searching, but they are it's kind of this backdoor kind of sneak, hidden door into a really intimate experience with your favorite artist that you can't get at a larger venue.
How often do you say that those happen in Tulsa? You said there's 5 or 6 different houses.
Yeah,
that do
and
that.
there's kind of a new, there's somebody like me. There's a guy named Scott Aycock hosts them. There was a house called Vox by a guy named, I think, Chris McCabe, but he's now runs something I believe called Belafonte. And I just heard there's another one the other day called like Tulsa House, not the Tulsa Treehouse.
Let's move on a little bit from that, from the brunches and the house concerts to more of the music scene. And you've talked about it, you talked about it and touched on it a little bit. I was actually with you at the art crawl, and you were with, several of your friends, and they were saying that, Tulsa is like Nashville before it is the Nashville now. So tell me a little bit about the music scene, a little bit more about the music scene here.
So, I've lived in a lot of kind of what a lot of people call bigger music cities in America, New York, LA, Boston, Portland, Seattle, Atlanta. Atlanta's got a great music scene. I've visited most of the other ones. I've spent 3 or 4 weeks in Nashville. I performed there once or twice. And I feel like Tulsa's America's next best great music city. It's not, obviously it's not as big as Austin or Nashville yet, but I think it's kind of getting there. But I think it's growing in the right way, because it supports artists. It's got, there's venues, from the Mercury Lounge. And if anyone hasn't been in the Mercury Lounge, if you want to see a really authentic, gritty, filtered musical experience, go to the Mercury Lounge. It's kind of Americana. It's a little rock. It's a little country. It's a little bluegrass. Every Sunday, there's an amazing artist named Johnny Mullinax who does this thing called the Bluegrass Brunch. And it's a little more rockabilly than bluegrass, but it's bluegrass too. And he'll bring out 300 or 400 people flowing out into the streets and just rocks the house. And he's now a nationally touring artist. And so I just got here and I just kind of right away felt like this is a creative city, like creatives plural. Like it's for everybody, but there's a lot of cities that aren't really here for you as a creative. And even New York City is kind of getting to be that kind of place. Like it's ostensibly a city with an artistic and entrepreneurial heart, but it's so expensive to live in New York City now. If you're not making at least $100,000 a year, if you make $100,000 a year in New York, you've got roommates. You can't afford a place on your own. So
that's wild.
Not a lot of musicians make that. You're a pretty successful musician if you're making $100,000 a year. So I look at a city like Tulsa and I feel like this is a new way to make it work as a musician. Come here. You don't have to go to Nashville's getting pretty crowded now. Austin's pretty crowded. I got a lot of friends who moved to Austin 10 years ago and they're like, it's not Austin anymore, it's LA now. And they also sort of hear me talking about Tulsa and they're like, careful what you wish for. You want Tulsa to get a little bigger, but not too much bigger. Don't hope that Tulsa becomes Austin. You don't want what we have now. You don't. And my friends in Nashville say the same. Like, you don't want to be like I've said. Like, I think we're the next Nashville, and they're like, careful. You want to be the Nashville we were, not the Nashville we are now. So I've seen it a little bit. I went to Nashville a year and a half ago. And as you perhaps know, it's sort of like the bachelorette party headquarters of America now. And like, the scene downtown on a Friday or Saturday night, it's like you're in the middle of like the Thanksgiving Macy Days parade. It's very busy and it's probably lost a little of its authenticity. I mean, real estate properties are going up there. If you bought a house, you're probably happy. But if you moved there for something authentic and pure and simple, I think it's lost that a bit, but Tulsa still has it. My friends in Nashville feel like it's not the Nashville I moved here for, and Tulsa still is. It's still got a heart, still got authenticity. You can still get in. You don't have to pay $100 to see your favorite artist. Even at Kane's Ballroom, like you can see like Jack White for like $48. You're not paying what you'd pay in New York or Boston or Nashville. And you can just walk into a small place like the Colony and see someone like Michaela Young. I'm like, how is this woman not playing to 20,000? Like, I've been in New York for 12 years. Like, she's better than 90% of the artists I've seen. So you can still find diamonds in the rough here. And I don't want them to stay performing only 100. I hope they do get national careers and all that. But you can get access. It's nice to be in a smaller pond. You can. In New York, you've got to pony up for Madison Square Garden or Broadway to go out. There are smaller venues, but not as many of them. But here, that's kind of what we got. We've got the Shrine, we've got the Colony, we've got Mercury Lounge, we've got these small little venues, Belafonte, we've got house concerts, and you can still experience great music with 50 to 100 people, and you don't have to be lost in the sea of 1,000. So,
yeah, that's pretty amazing.
I don't know if I answered everything there.
You did. Okay, let's talk a little bit, go back a little bit about the neighborhoods. And you love your neighborhood, love where you're at. But if you could wave a magic wand and live in any neighborhood in Tulsa, would you stay? Would you move? Yeah,
I think the one amazing thing about Tulsa is every week I feel like I hear there's another neighborhood I didn't know about. Renaissance Park, what? And I've known about that one for a while, but we must have 150, and I, as you know, I don't get down south terribly often. I make it to 51st once in a while. I don't get to Broken Arrow too much unless I'm getting my car fixed. I live north of Tulsa, and I have a rich life downtown, and in the TU neighborhood, I go to a fair bit. Kendall Whittier, I go to the farmers market every Saturday. I play music there sometimes. I love the Heights neighborhood. Reservoir Hill, where I live, is just north of the Heights. And it's a really rich, it's a small community of, I think, 85 homes. And we're up on top of this hill. We've got a reservoir at the top. We've got wild peacocks roaming the streets. Everyone's hilarious. Got a guitar or a piano or an art easel in their corner. Everyone's got some connection to the arts. People farm up there. But one neighborhood I really love is Owen Park. And I sort of knew of it, but I didn't explore it much when I bought a house. And now I've got probably 10 or 12 friends there, and I've rented there once in a while. When my house is being rented out, I'll stay with a friend in Owen Park. And That's a great neighborhood. It's
Yeah.
it's just off the beaten path. It's a little west of downtown. It's got craftsman houses, got character. It's quiet, but it's social. The neighbors say hi to each other. And I will say that, like, there's just a contagious, welcoming energy in Tulsa. Everyone's saying hi to each other. Like, most of my friends on the Hill have a holiday party once in a while. They'll have a holiday party once a year. They'll have a barbecue. They'll have a pizza party. Everyone's pretty welcoming, and that's what I would say. I lived in Portland, Oregon for 4 years, and Tulsa reminds me of Portland, Oregon. I've called it the Portland of the Midwest a few times. It's sort of, you know, it's a city. They're both cities that have a DIY culture, a do-it-yourself. They're artistically minded, but there's commerce and there's industry there. It's a little politically mixed. Portland's a little more blue than Tulsa is probably, but Oregon is very red in a lot of ways. So I think you know, what I like about Tulsa is I'm in a pretty mixed political, you know, part of the country, whereas I've mostly lived in these, you know, very sort of blue coastal elites town most of my life. Maine was pretty red growing up. Maine's pretty mixed. We did vote for Maine voted for Ross Perot in 1992 for president. We were the only state in the country that voted for him over the two other candidates. So Maine's kind of independent at heart, and I feel like Tulsa is as well. Portland certainly is. But I think of all the neighborhoods, I loved Owen Park. I like, I kind of like the districts. I like, I love the Arts District, and like I almost lived there my first year. I lived in the Mayo Hotel instead because there's more restaurants in the Arts District. I'm like, if you live here, you are going to be spending $100 a night in restaurants every night, and you're going to be broke. And so then now I live up on the Hill, and I do cook for myself a lot more often now that I'm up on the Hill, but I get lonely and need to go out on the town. But other neighborhoods, I love Riverside. I love Brookside, and I did want to live there for a while. I'm a cyclist. I'm a runner. I love that whole stretch on Peoria with all the restaurants and Bin 35 and R Bar, and that's in a lot of ways. A lot of people are surprised I don't live there. Like you run, you're athletic, you're a cyclist, you like restaurants and coffee shops, you're single. Like, why aren't you living on Peoria? And I liked it. I didn't love the houses there. And I realized, as much as I love the river, I love being on the hill. And I grew up on hill. I grew up ski racing and bike racing in New England, and I like being on tops of hills. There's something about it just feels like home to me. So I can't walk to a restaurant in Reservoir Hill. I can drive. I can bike to it. 1.3 miles away, got a great restaurant called Prism Cafe. But yeah, I can't walk to a coffee shop where I live. But I can drive to everything in this town within 7 or 8 minutes.
So you need a vehicle, really?
Yeah, where I live. Yeah, at least a motorbike. And you know, there is a side of me that kind of wishes I'm in a very walkable neighborhood. Like, everyone walks, and you know, but it's more for to clear your head and you know, and get out and breathe the fresh air. Than you're not walking to a restaurant or to a coffee shop. The way when I lived downtown at the Mayo, you know, I just walk. I think my first year in Tulsa, I put 1,000 miles on my car. It was during the pandemic. There wasn't much open, but I just walked everywhere. Or Lime scooters. I like the Lime scooters. But yeah, I didn't. Now I have to drive more, but I have people up to my house a lot. I'm hosting this big house concert tomorrow night, and so. But other neighborhoods, I'm trying to give you better answers. Maple Ridge, I got a few friends there. Big lawns, big properties. I like neighborhoods that are a little quirky. I think what I didn't love about Brookside is it's on a grid. You know, which is New York City's most of it's a grid, and it makes sense in a city. But I feel like in a town like this, it feels a little boring. I like it when there's twisty, windy roads. Like, what's the neighborhood that has Swan Lake?
Swan Lake.
Swan Lake neighborhood, yeah. So like that's quirky, fun, cool, and it's not cheap. I've learned, but like that's interesting.
Yeah,
like it's you know, it's an anomaly. It's a little different. I like things that are like, this is not like the rest. Like, let's live here. And I think Tulsa's got a lot of neighborhoods that are not like the rest. I think it's got a lot of people that are not like the rest. It's got a lot of restaurants. It's got an independent heart. It's quirky. It believes in authenticity. You know, like, I don't see chain restaurants that much in Tulsa. Maybe if you
went outside the suburbs. So that's what's so funny talking to you is you're in true like midtown, downtown people. they think 51st is far.
Yeah.
And definitely
Yeah.
the suburbs. Like,
Guilty. Yes.
Yeah, so you don't experience all the chain
71st
stuff.
once in a while. Like
Oh,
I said.
yeah?
I'm a cyclist, so I go down to 71st
Okay.
Street Bridge all the time, but I don't end up inland a whole lot. I'm not married. I don't have kids. I feel like it's a little more families down there. Most of the single people are a little further north, so
Yeah.
I end up hanging out with them.
Now, let me ask you, go back. You were talking about restaurants and, talking about the food scene a little bit, getting to know the restaurant owners. How do you feel about the food scene in Tulsa compared to the places that you've been?
Yeah, so I get a lot of questions from my New Yorker friends who knew me well and knew me for 12 years. I was in New York, and on the one level, like, so Tulsa, really? And I'm like, come to Tulsa. I will make you a believer. Fly out. I got a 3-bedroom house. You spend 1 week in Tulsa, and you will not walk away without being a fan. And I've got another friend visiting this weekend from Atlanta, who's currently going through it. He's like, yeah, you told me it was cool. This is pretty cool. But the more specific question I get from my New York friends is like, bro, you don't have the restaurants in New York anymore. I'm like, we have New York quality food in Tulsa. I really believe the bar that the chefs and the designers and the restaurateurs here set, I do believe is as high in general as New York. I'm not saying Tulsa restaurants are better than any New York.
Yes.
I'm not quite saying that, but I'm saying if you're a New Yorker and you're worried you're going to, oh, what will I do without the restaurants in New York? I'm doing just fine. I got more than enough. Do I have 3,500 restaurants that are at a certain bar? No, but I got 64, and that's a lot. And I don't need to be going to more than 64 restaurants a year. I feel like I have not had to sacrifice restaurant quality. And I'm very encouraged that most of the places I go to are really uniquely designed, and they're born of a single ideology. And like the rest, whether it's Prism Cafe in the Heights, my friend Amy Hunter, like she's lived in Dallas and Jackson Hole and Portland and New York, and she's borrowed from all these other cities and made this little 26-seat cafe sing like a New York City cafe, but it's got Tulsa vibes. She's sourcing food from local farmers. My friend Noah Bush, who he and his partner Chip started Hodges Bend and Lowwood and a number of other Topeka Coffee. They've just opened Ava June and Lo-Fi Pizza, and you walk into these places and they don't remind you of anything else. It's not a Chili's where it's the same design, stamped and exported and copied and pasted around the country. It's they sweated every detail, and every restaurant here, whether it's Amelia's, Boston Title and Abstract, even. I'm trying to, Trencher's, Delicatessen. There's a sense of authenticity and like a uniqueness that you feel like. I feel like every restaurant I walk into, Vintage Wine Bar on First, it has Monday night jazz nights. Like every Monday night, one of the best sax players I've ever seen, Mike Cameron's in there leading a quartet of like 4 or 5 musicians, and it's amazing. The wines are great. Like people, you don't have to live in New York City to have New York level tastes and sort of standards. And I think we're now at the part where a lot of cities in the country have big city level caliber restaurants. Portland, Maine, where I grew up, Maine's won, I think, Restaurant City of the Year like 3 or 4 times now. And so I feel like that's on the way for Tulsa. Tulsa just won a James Beard Award with Kat Cox of Country Bird Bakery. So like we're on the map. We're getting there. And Lisa and Linda of Farm Bar and Living Kitchen, I think they were nominated as well. I think we've had 4 or 5 restaurants nominated for James Beard Awards. Look at some Michelin stars. We're coming for you, New York City. We're hot on your tail. So.
Okay, well, let's switch a little bit from food scene to, so when you have friends that come up, what are the 5 things that you're telling them they must do? Like if you're in Tulsa for, 3 or 4 days, what has to be on the list?
Yeah, so I'm kind of doing that right now. I've got a friend named Steven visiting from Atlanta. It's his first time visiting, and he's a music friend. He's going to be attending the house concert I'm hosting tomorrow night, and he knows the musician I have coming.
Okay.
He's seen him as well, partially why Steven and I are good friends. We both have pretty identical taste in music. But anyway, so Steven is new to Tulsa this weekend, so he's staying in a hotel downtown, the Tulsa Club Hotel, and first thing I did, I picked him up and I drove him to the Brute Hotel, which is a new hotel, kind of Riverside-ish, south of downtown. It has a rooftop bar called Soma, and we had lunch and a glass of wine on the rooftop of Tulsa and looked out at the river, and I showed him around. He could see the whole lay of the land, and There's the fresh air and the breeze, and it's in these, like, this is modern. There's a pool. I was like, look at the pool down here. It's like, this is like the Soho House of Tulsa. And so right away he kind of got a sense of like the caliber and the standards and like the aesthetics. Like, I will say, like, Tulsa's appreciation for a designer sense of aesthetics are supreme. Like, there's an artistic sensibility here to how buildings are designed. We've got all these Art Deco buildings downtown. But every restaurant, like, there's nothing really cookie cutter here. Maybe some of the houses, but like even the majority of our houses are like craftsman houses from the 20s with like sturdy bones and character and authenticity. And, you don't see that many McMansions like you would in Atlanta. So I took him to the Soma, to the Brute Hotel, to the rooftop bar at Soma, and then I took him I just did a loop around the IDL interdispersory loop, just so we could see the city. We'll go to the Mayo Hotel rooftop tonight. We're going to go to Boston Title and Abstract, this great kind of speakeasy dinner downtown underground, one of the buildings in downtown. I describe it as Batman's. It's like if Batman had a private restaurant below his mansion, it would be Boston Title and Abstract. So we'll go there, and then I showed him. I take them to the Arts District. I show them the Woody Guthrie mural. I show them the Bob Dylan Museum. I show them Guthrie Green. I show them Living Arts. I show them the stadium. I take them up to the Vast Bank building, in the Raw sushi restaurant, and have them look at the view of the baseball stadium, soccer stadium. I take them on Riverside. If I have time with them tomorrow, we will walk across the Williams Crossing Bridge, which is the new bridge above the new dam by the Gathering Place. I would take him to the Gathering Place if we had a little more time. I'm not sure he'll get to that. We will go to a restaurant called Bull in the Alley for last call tonight, where my friend John will be playing piano at 9 to midnight. But I'll try to, you go to the center of the universe, and you ring the bell, and there's just kind of all these little quirky little only in Tulsa moments, kind of thing. I'll share another story. Like when I first got to Tulsa, having lived in all these other cities, I did all these fake social media posts for a little while, where I took a photo of part of Tulsa that I thought reminded me of another town. Like I would be downtown, and in these Art Deco buildings reminding me of the financial district in New York City, and I would do a post going, so cool to be back in the financial district again with all these great 1920s buildings from the best architects of the 20th century. Oh wait, this is Tulsa. And I did that kind of misdirect thing. I'm an ad guy at heart, and I did it for so cool to be back in Williamsburg again. Oh wait, this is Tulsa. So cool to be back in Nashville this weekend, some of the best barbecue. Oh wait, this is Tulsa. And everywhere I went, I kind of was like, this is the best of that city and that city and that city, all rolled into one, and you can still afford it, and there's no traffic, and you can still make a nice life here. So I hope it stays. I want Tulsa to get bigger, but not too much bigger. But I want more of the world to find out how great Tulsa is.
Let's talk about OK.
Yes.
So
it's funny. I was like, so tell us. I was like, is this a friend of mine I've forgotten about? So one of the many creative exploits I indulge in is the craft of storytelling, which is somewhat, people think it's sort of like stand-up comedy, but you're on stage and it's just you and a microphone for 5, 6, 7 minutes. But it's a singular story you're telling, and the goal isn't just to make people laugh; it's to make people feel, and to really take them on a journey of storytelling. And so when living in New York City, there's a big storytelling series called The Moth, which is not just in New York, it's national. And it's often regarded as kind of the sort of highest tier, the highest quality storytellers in America are all participating in the Moth storytelling series. And Tulsa has a version of that called OK So. And it's a bit of a play on OK Oklahoma, but also the other night I was out with my friends in the bar. You wouldn't believe what happened. This crazy guy walked in. And so it's kind of a nod to how we often start off stories. Okay, so I got to break this down. You won't believe what happened the other night. So I've been doing that for about 2 years. It's this great series started by my friends Michelle Bias and Brandon Jean Pearson. And they host the storytelling series once a month, second Friday of every month, called OK So Story Slams at the Living Arts Center in general. And there's a different theme each month. And it could be fear, or it could be confessions, or I think next month is holiday disasters, or blessing in disguise, or moment of truth. There's a different theme. And so all this, the wannabe or actually practicing storytellers of Tulsa hear about the theme. They start thinking, start, writing and putting notes in your phone. What's a story I could tell? And do I have anything for this? Oh, I like this could be something. Let me rehearse that. Let me work this through. And you rehearse ideally, and you prepare it, and you fine tune it, and then you get up on stage. And there's 10 storytellers every event they do. They pull names out of a hat, so you could walk up, throw your name in the hat. You may not get called. Sometimes they have 25 people put a name in the hat, and they can only pick 10 or 11 spots. So you hope if you spent 20 hours rehearsing your story, you get called. And I've been on stage probably 13 times, 1, 2, or 3. And then if you win one of them, you get called to the Grand Slam at the end of the year, which is usually in Kane's Ballroom. So I've performed on the main stage in Kane's Ballroom twice, not as a musician, but as a storyteller. Actually, one story I brought out my guitar, and so I can say I was like, I've performed music on the Kane's stage. I cheated my way into that claim, but it's a beautiful tradition being honored here in Tulsa. The craft of storytelling. It's usually about 300 people that show up and listen. Judges are pulled out of the audience, and you really, it's a great way to kind of keep your finger on the creative pulse of Tulsa and sort of see what, the kind of next generation of Tulsa storytellers are speaking about and what they feel is worthy of, an audience hearing. And I make about 8 or 9 of them a year out of the 12 or so. I'm going to miss next month because I'm hosting another house concert. But it's beautiful, and it's just one of many examples where I feel like Tulsa is committed to embracing and supporting and lifting up the creative arts. And I think you can have a city that's got great industry and great career options and all that, but if you don't have the arts, if you don't have some sort of creative soul to your city, it's not going to really catch fire and grow. Like Austin didn't grow just because it had... Tesla came after Austin cemented itself as an arts center. And, all these others, plenty, I think Dallas and Houston, I love the cities as well, but I'm more drawn to a city like Austin or like Tulsa. I think it just has, even compared to Oklahoma City, I think we've got a little more of a passion for the arts here. And I think we have a little more character and authenticity. We may not have as much commerce and industry, but I think we're going to get there.
Yeah. I think so. Okay, last question for you.
Yep.
And this could be somebody that you know or somebody that you don't know, but out of all the Tulsans that you've met or you're aware of, who is the one that you most admire?
Wow. Who do I most admire in Tulsa? So many amazing people here. There's, whether it's a restaurant owner like Amy Hunter, who moved here from Dallas, I think 4 years ago, and had to work her ass off for 2 years to get permits through and get a building, get it renovated, and start this great restaurant and Prism Cafe. Or my musician friends like Johnny Mullinax, who's been bringing 300 or 400 people out at the Bluegrass Brunch and the Mercury Lounge each week. Or Casey Steffen, another musician in Tulsa, who's performed at my house before. She's performing again in December. Or Johnny Mural, or artists like Rebecca Dene, they're showing their work on First Fridays every Friday night, or whether it's film directors, or whether it's film director Sterling Harjo, director of Reservation Dogs, and now The Lowdown, the amazing show starring Ethan Hawke. I mean, the vision it's taken for him and his crew to make this brave, authentic, gritty, funny, happy, sad, wonderful, unlike anything else show called The Lowdown happen here in Tulsa. Like that's someone with a lot of vision and passion and commitment, and you can't make that happen overnight. He was part of the Sundance festival many years ago, and he worked under Robert Redford, or met him, and was kind of nurtured and encouraged by Robert Redford. And I think he's maybe our next Robert Redford. I think he's really doing that kind of beautiful work. I've been lucky enough to meet Monroe Nichols, our mayor, a couple times. I had a few events for him at my house. He's our first black mayor of Tulsa. I mean, there's just a lot of people, brave, courageous souls here doing brave, unique, interesting things. Whether it's a new restaurant or a tattoo shop or the architects. There's a lot of architects in Tulsa. I bought my house from architect Dwayne Mass, and he's the director, he's the architect behind the Capitol building in Oklahoma City, but he's built 5 or 6 houses here in Tulsa. I have just as many people to admire and respect and look up to here in Tulsa than I ever did in New York City or any other city I've lived in.
Okay. Do you have anything? That was amazing. I'm sure all those people, I'm sure there's going to be plenty more that you're like, man, I wish I would have said, yes, who'd I leave out?
I didn't mention this person.
Yes, I know that there's so many more. But is there anything else you want to add about living in Tulsa, about your experience, anything we didn't touch on that you think people would, would be helpful to people?
Yeah, I would say the one thing I end up saying to a lot of people who have known me a long time and kind of know me in my life in New York or my life in LA or on the coast and all that, and they find out I'm in Tulsa, and they usually have a bit of a folded arms, suspicious kind of like, so. I remember one friend of mine when I first got here, he was watching a lot of my posts. He goes, so are you really liking it or are you just Facebook liking it? To like, brand and cheer on you. And I was like, I'm telling you, man, come out here. I will make you a believer of this town. Like I'm as surprised as anyone, but at least I was open to it. And a lot of people aren't open to it. And I say to people, you'd be surprised where you can be happy. And I think I've lived in so many different cities, and obviously I was in New York City for 12 years, was the longest. And I believed I was a New Yorker, and like this is the town for me. I didn't necessarily believe this is the only town for me. But I was like, I'm a New Yorker now. Like, and I didn't know I was a New Yorker. I thought it was a Los Angelino. I was living in LA, and I thought I'd never leave. And the financial crisis of '08 forced me to move to New York. And then I found out, like, oh, I'm actually a New Yorker. I didn't know that. And now I'm like, oh, maybe I'm a Tulsan. So I think if any town you come to, and I've seen a few people come to this town from other cities, and if they don't have a completely open heart and they've got a little bit of a guard up, and you don't really embrace this town, and you wait to be invited to the town, and you don't go out and make things happen, like, yeah, maybe you won't fall in love with Tulsa, but that's a little bit on you. Like I tell people, like, don't wait to be invited to the party. You're the party. You start the party. You host the parties, Mark. You host the brunch parties. You host the house concerts, and then, and the more I do that, the more I invite people, the more I get invited to the larger world of Tulsa. The more I end up, going to the amazing film premiere release, the more I end up finding out about a cool stand-up comedy show. So I think wherever you go in life, try to see life through a lens of abundance, not scarcity. Don't sit there resenting why you haven't been invited or welcomed into something. Ask, not what your town can do for you. What can you do for your town? And what maybe you need to host. You lived in your house for a year? Have you had a housewarming party yet? You haven't had a housewarming party. Welcome people into your world. Show up, be proud of who you are in your life. And I think if you come to Tulsa, I will say this, of all the towns I've lived in, I've done this a lot where I open my house up or my apartment or whatever and invite people. And as an example, like I lived in Seattle for 2 years. There's a nickname for Seattle. There's a concept you can experience in Seattle called the Seattle Freeze. It's more of like a social phenomenon where it's a little cold. It's not rude. It's not mean. It's not as warm. And when I moved to Tulsa, I started opening my doors up and inviting people, and the percentage of people who just came and showed up and bought a bottle of wine or a guitar, and their good energy and their sense of humor and their open-heartedness, I think has exceeded any other city I've ever lived in.
That's amazing. Yep. I love it.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, go Tulsa. Thank you for opening up and sharing your story. And there's so much. I know that there's so much more, but that was excellent. I think people will love it.
You're stuck with me for now. I don't know where else I'm going from here, guys.
Right.
It's I've got a house. I've got a nice life. I've got friends and community and restaurants and house concerts and musical opportunities and stand-up comedy and filmmaking friends, and it's everything that I kind of was looking for in big cities. I've been able to find here.
All right. You're living the good life.
Yep. You as well.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sabrina. It's great to be here.